Hi, I'm Cassie. I work in youth services at Nampa Public Library, and I have some books I'd like to share with you today. These are all young adult titles, but if you're older than that, you also maybe will enjoy them too. I did notice there's a bit of a theme with my books. I love fairy tales, so most of them kind of lean that way, but they're all different. So yeah, let's get into it. This first book is called Cinder by Marissa Meyer. It's the first book in a series called The Lunar Chronicles. The Lunar Chronicles is a sci-fi retelling of famous fairy tales. The world is one part science fiction dystopia and one part fairy tale kingdom. Humans and androids are caught up in a world being ravaged by disease, all while the people of the moon colony Lunar look on, waiting. In these books, Cinderella is a teen cyborg, Red Riding Hood's grandmother was a space pilot, and Rapunzel is a satellite tech banished to live her days orbiting the Earth. The series starts with Cinder, as you can see, who faces discrimination for her cyborg body. Her foot and hand are robotic, something she tries to hide when Prince Kai shows up at her mechanics booth in New Beijing City Market. He asks her to fix his android, a task she can't possibly say no to. At home, her ruthless stepmother forces her to fix things while her stepsisters get the royal treatment. Kind-hearted Peony, one of her stepsisters, is Cinder's only friend. But when Peony starts showing signs of the deadly disease leishmaniasis, both her and Cinder are taken into quarantine. There is no known cure. But while Cinder's test comes back negative, her stepsister is forced to stay under quarantine. Cinder is not out of hot water yet, though. When she returns home, her stepmother is furious, blames Cinder for Peony's sickness, and volunteers Cinder for leishmaniasis testing, practically a death sentence. Meanwhile, there are bigger problems. The king of the Eastern Commonwealth and Prince Kai's dad has contracted the same disease Peony has. The death is almost certainly imminent, and the Queen of Luna, the colony on the moon, is pressuring the prince to form an alliance through marriage, and when the king passes away, she comes in force to the palace in New Beijing. Will Prince Kai be forced to marry the beautiful tyrant Lavanna, or will Cinder be able to save the planet from the influence of the Lunars by discovering the truth? This series is for those of you who love action, adventure, a little romance, and strong friendships. If you love fairy tale retellings or science fiction with a slight fantasy bent, give these books a try. The next book I have is by Brandon Sanderson, and it is also the first book in a series. It's called Steelheart. Unlike his other works, this is actually only a 3-book series. So it's a little bit more manageable than Mistborn or any of his other books. Look at that. It's not 700 pages. So Steelheart is about superheroes, kind of. Power is corruption. Superpowers do not make heroes, and mortal man will be crushed beneath the super's feet. When calamity came, everything changed. People started exhibiting special powers and abilities. At first they were praised. They were called epics, and they could do no wrong, until their power got the best of them. Now, humanity lives in a world ruled by the epics. No one fights back against them, except for the Reckoners. David, our protagonist, wants into this elite, super secret band of rebels. But he must find them first. His one driving purpose is to take down the epics, especially the biggest, strongest one of them all, Steelheart. Steelheart is reportedly invincible, but David knows the secret that could be the key to the epic's downfall. This adventure is fast-paced right out of the gate. The action is almost non-stop, but it leaves a lot of room for character growth and development. The relationships that are built between the characters are strong and believable. This is a great read if you love the Avengers and want something to shake up the superhero genre a bit. And back to fairy tales. This book I picked up on a road trip last year just randomly and loved it. It's totally different than anything else I've read and set in a different area than I've really read a lot of books about. This is called Gods of Jaden Shadow by Sylvia Mourinho Garcia. Imagine it's the 1920s. Jewels, prohibition, dancing, short hair. Now imagine we're in Mexico on the coast. That's the setting for this colorful story. Cassiopeia dreams of the glitz and glamour that the 1920s promise, but she's stuck in a provincial town working as a servant in her grandfather's house. Her life is tedious and her extended family treat her like dirt. If you're getting Cinderella vibes, you're not alone, but the story quickly veers away from that traditional tale. Unless Prince Charming is a god of death. One day, while cleaning her grandfather's chambers, Cassiopeia discovers a chest she's never seen before. Upon opening it, she realizes she released an ancient Mayan god of death, Hun Kame. and he wants his kingdom in the underworld back. Like it or not, Cassiopeia is tied to Hunkame until he wins his throne back from his trickster brother. They embark on an adventure together looking for Hunkame's lost items, his finger, his eye, his amulet. Along the way, Cassiopeia finally gets introduced to the world she so desperately wanted to see. But to travel with a god of death has its advantages and its costs. The price might be too much. Cassiopeia is only mortal after all, and her soul can only sustain both her and Hunkame for so long. This book spins Mexican mythology and folklore with 1920s glamour. It's a story about dreaming, power, and wanting the world to make room for you. I love this book. The next book here is actually found in the adult section in our library, but I think it's a little bit more YA than adult. Our main character is a teenager, and it's set in Russia in, I think like the 1500s or somewhere around there. So it's kind of a fun setting for the book. This is called The Bear and the Nightingale. It's book 1 of 3 by Catherine Arden. In the far deep north, miles from Moscow, is a land steeped in old magic and even older spirits. Here is where Vasilisa was born, and she's growing up huddled around the house oven with her siblings, listening to tales her nurse Dunya tells her. Her favorite is of the winter demon Frost, who claims the lives of people who stray too far from home in the dark, long months of winter. Vasya is smart, wily, and a wild child. More than that, she can see things others can't, like the domove that live in her oven and protect their house, and the spirit that lives in the stables who teaches her to speak to horses. After a trip to the capital of Moscow, Vasya's father brings home a new wife, Anna. Vasya's new stepmother is not meant for the wild northern country, and she struggles to feel any semblance of control. Where Vasya's family is torn between the old and the new, with one foot in the realm of spirits and one in the church, she is deeply devout and religious. Anna refuses to give tribute to the spirits that surround them, which leads to more than just tension between her and Vasya. A new priest comes to the village, and he shares Anna's point of view. He convinces people that the household spirits, the domove, are demons, and anyone who can see them is a witch. The village responds in fear, and the tributes usually given to the spirits, both at home and in the forest, are forgotten. Dark things are awakening around them now, though. Vasya gives all she can to the spirits, but her offerings alone are not enough to protect the people from what's coming. The winter begins to set in, and the cold is harsher than usual. Death comes. As the cold claims people's lives, something else more evil claims their bodies. The dead begin to rise, and only Vasya seems to know what's causing it. As the dead awaken, so does something far more sinister, and he's been waiting for Vasya for a long time. This book is beautifully written, wonderfully atmospheric, and so immersive. If you enjoy Shadow and Bone or Naomi Novak books, this series is for you. And my last book is, I love all of these books, but this one might be my favorite. It's called Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. It's Mulan, but instead of war, our heroine Maya stands in for her father in competition to become the imperial tailor. So it's one part Mulan, one part Project Runway. Her whole life, Maya has desired nothing but to be the best tailor in the land. However, for a woman to be the best she can hope for is to marry well. The kind of dramatic sewing and embroidering that Maya wants to do and excels at is only for men to aspire to. When a messenger arrives from the emperor demanding her ailing father's presence in court, Maya takes his place, pretending to be one of her brothers back from the war. If she's discovered, not only will her life be forfeit, but her family's will too. The job of imperial tailor is not hers to simply take, though. 12 other tailors are vying for the position, and they will do anything to secure their spot at the emperor's side. They all face off in Project Runway-style battle of skill and talent. With each task, the challenge increases. The imperial palace is full of backstabbing, lies, and malice, and Maya's integrity and skill can only get her so far, until she discovers a set of magical scissors, that is. But the new abilities draws a little too much attention, and soon she's asked to do the impossible. If she fails, her family will pay the price. This book has some of everything: adventure, intrigue, magic, romance. All the clothes Maya makes sparked my imagination the best way as I read it. It was so fun reading a fantasy book with an Asian-inspired setting. So good. And the second book is out already, and I think there might be a third, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah, but you should definitely read this one. And that is all I have. So thanks so much for following along. I hope you check some of these titles out.
Hi everyone, welcome to our last installment of the Tales and Tales book talks we've been doing during the summer about a bunch of our different categories, youth fiction and nonfiction and graphic novels. Today we're talking about teen fiction. So my name is Amanda, and I'll start us off talking about, first of all, a series that I really love, and second of all, a duology, 2-book series that is actually shelved in adult fiction, but I think is a great read for teens as well. So we're going to start off with the Queen's Thief series. The most recent book in the series has just come out, called Return of the Thief. As you can tell, I've got a bookmark in here showing that I have started to read it. So I can't really tell you much about the most recent book, but I can tell you that the series itself is amazing. There's a lot of surprises, a lot of little twists in the story that you may or may not see coming. They are set in a fictional Greek-type world. And to show you just how long this series has been waiting to finish, this is the first book in the series called The Thief. These are by Megan Whalen Turner. And as you can tell by this fabulous cover, this is from the 90s. This is from 96. And this is when it began. And the very last book in the series in 2021 has finally been published. So this author took her time making sure that her books were just as she wanted them. I hope anyway. So it begins with the story of Eugenides. I'm expecting that that is who they're trying to picture on the cover here. They just call him Jen for short most of the time, and he is a thief. And in the first book, they request that he steal a mythical item that whoever possesses it can be declared king or queen of a country that treasures this what is called Hamaeathes's gift. He brags that he is an excellent thief, but nobody really believes him, and he kind of surprises people in the book, so you'll just have to read it yourself to find out more. It continues on with the Queen of Aetolia, which Aetolia is one of the countries in this world, and then the King of Aetolia, and following that up with a Conspiracy of Kings, and Thick as Thieves, which came out, I believe, was last year or the year before that. I don't remember. Pretty recently, because you can tell they have the same kind of covers on them. And then, of course, Return of the Thief as the very last one. Almost every book, I think 2 books are told from the perspective of Jen, and then every other book is told from the first-person perspective of a different character. So you get into the different minds of different people, and then that also means that you don't get to see everything that's going on that they can't see and that they don't know about. So it adds a little bit to the intrigue. So that's a bit of homework for you to do if you're interested. You know, it's 6 books. So if you like the first book, it's a bit to get into, but it is super fun. And on this side over here, I have this duology by the author Emily B. Martin. The first book is called Sunshield. And the second book, which I am also in the process of finishing, is called Floodpath. It is, the duology is called The Outlaw Road Duology, and it is told from the perspective of 3 different people, Viren, Tamsin, and Lark. And Lark is an outlaw in a desert she is freeing bond slaves that they are trying to cart off to a large city that basically benefits off of them, and it is very the city is very extravagant and lavish, but it's built on the backs of all these slaves who don't get paid to do what they do. Viren is from a different country, and he's come to try and talk about releasing these slaves and this kind of bond service with this country that is enslaving them. And then Tamsin is a significant political person for this rich country, and she has been kidnapped because she doesn't agree with a lot of their policies either. And so it's kind of how their 3 journeys come together, who they are to each other, and It's very well written, and the author actually, she is a park ranger during the summer. So whenever she describes the kind of the different areas that they're in, it's just very well done because she knows her plants and she knows what they look like and she knows what these terrains should look like. And so I really kind of appreciate that about these books. And there are redwoods in this world, which is kind of interesting that they go into a part of the world that actually has redwoods like we do here in the United States, in California. So yeah, I think it's just an interesting mix. She has deserts and she has redwoods, and it's just like this world that has so many different environments, and it's kind of cool to read. And the characters, I think, are really well done. So it's an adult fiction fantasy, but I think it's perfect for teens too. And I would welcome you to check it out. So that's all from me. I'll hand it over to Cassie, and she can share with you all the things that she would recommend you to read. So we'll see you guys at the library.